Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back yet again to the show that won't quit. It's the Evan Here's Culture campaign. And boy, oh boy, do we have a magnificent guest on today. She is a performer. She's a comedian. She is a sound engineer. She's a Wheel of Fortune survivor. It is Hannah Cairo. How are you doing today?
Hi, I'm very good. How are you?
I'm doing all right. I mean, every time we're doing the show, it's like, it's like Christmas. So today, we're talking about the album of 2013, the album everybody was listening to besides me and people of my ilk. The Arctic Monkeys' fifth album, AM, which I'll just say, right off the bat, love that title. I love a nice, I like when you have a short title that's working on a lot of different levels. So you got the musicals, you got the AM radio waves.
It could be the morning.
Yeah, it could
Who's
be
to
the
say?
morning. And it's got that great cover of the sort of wave, which is used in that great music video for the opening track. But before delving into those kinds of specifics, how did you become familiar with the Arctic Monkeys?
So I was kind of like you in that I was like hardcore, like into the musical theater, and because I was trying to like catch up because I thought everybody like knew more than me, and so I was only listening to musical theater until a friend said, "You don't listen to any normal music. You don't listen to the radio. Like you have to know what's going on." And so I used the soundtrack from The Fault in Our Stars to create a radio on Spotify. And that's how I eventually found my way into music. And Arctic Monkeys is one of those that I think I heard Do I Want to Know? And immediately went and listened to their whole discography and was like, yes.
I didn't listen to the Arctic Monkeys until listening to this album. But every time I was bringing it up to people, I was like, oh yeah, I got to listen to the Arctic Monkeys for this thing. They're like, oh, Arctic Monkeys. Oh man, that was my jam in middle school. That was my jam in middle school. And I'm sitting there, I'm listening to it. I was like, what about it appealed so much to middle schoolers? Why is it middle school music? And then when you were messaging me about talking about doing this, you said, this was my jam in high school. And I was like, oh, wait a minute. There's nothing inherently middle school about it. It's just people that I know were in middle school when it came out. And you're slightly older than me, so you were in high school when it came out in
freshman in high school.
Yeah, freshman. So yeah, nothing necessarily distinctly that appeals to middle schoolers besides I guess there might be. Would you say there's something about it that hit that sort of age of that coming of age?
I have theories. I do have theories about this because I was thinking about it, like, how do we package this, right? Like, I think it kind of hits that like perfect intersection between like the girl who's never been noticed and like just wants like a mysterious guy and like nobody notices how like quirky and weird she is, and the guy that's like obsessed with every girl that he comes across. Mm-hmm. And so it speaks to the little boys who are like, I don't know what to do with feelings about girls, and here's a guy that's like, I'm cool and I smoke cigarettes and girls really think that I'm cool. And the girls were like, I wish that he was my boyfriend.
The front man, they wish he was their boyfriend, or?
I guess so.
We've sort of set up the milieu. We've set up the time period that it came out and kind of what it is.
But girls dressed and looked like this.
Yes, girls.
2014, like the alt girls of the Tumblr era. It was like soft rock, so we need a cardigan. Mm-hmm. Wings. Everything's matte. Don't look at me, I'm not shiny.
The album, so going into it, basically all I sort of knew, I had heard, they're kind of like the Strokes, and there's a hip-hop influence on this album. And, you had me kind of like the Strokes, because I love the Strokes. So
who doesn't like the Strokes?
The expectations were very high, and I'll just say, didn't meet them. I'll say, I know I've been talking about the album as if it's some sort of, very positively about the band. I don't know how much I really care for the album as a whole. I will say, you're right on the money that Do I Want to Know is an excellent song.
Incredible. It slams you right in.
Incredible. Yeah, I didn't, the first time I was like, okay. And then as I listened to that one more and more, I was like, oh, this is great. and then nothing really quite hits that height for me.
Well, because I think because they put the single of the album first, and it literally they decrease as it goes down to songs that you're like, I'll have this on in the background. But like the first two songs, you're like, I'm listening to this with my brain and I'm here. And the other ones are like, yeah, I don't care, just driving. It's background noise.
Yeah, especially like was so surprised that it starts on such a high, and the end song, I think it's called "Wanna Be Yours," just kind of peters out into nowhere. There's such a definitive beginning to the album. I mean, all that's great.
It's cool.
And then it sort of ends. It just sort of, you think they put so much effort into starting it. You think there'd be.
I always have my albums like on repeat, so they always like start over. And I'm always caught off guard when it starts over. I'm never like, and that was the end, waiting for the next song. I'm like, we're back at the top? When did that happen?
What is it about this album that you love so much? Because I want to know why you're passionate. Because there was nothing about this album that I hated or anything. Like I'm not like oh, it's bad. I'm like, it's like I've come home from a party and my roommate or somebody's like, how was it? I was like, well, everybody else seemed to be having fun. So I guess it's a good party.
I think that's kind of the thing about it though, because it was so like 2013 and it was so like specific to the time where it was like, no, like traditional rock is still cool and we're going to make it sexy. And like, we're also kind of shy. And like this whole amalgamation of 2013 that if you didn't listen to it then, coming back to it now is you're going to feel like you're like peering into someone else's room. Like it doesn't really feel personal unless it was personal to you then. Because even listening to it now, I'm like, it's a little bit weird. It's a little bit creepy that he's like constantly like, I'm sorry for interrupting. I'm just trying to kiss you. Do you want to be my girlfriend?
Yeah, that line was weird. I'm constantly on the cusp of
trying to kiss you. Like,
dude,
no.
That is strange. I mean, it's no the fucking 1975 I'm watching you when you sleep creepy, but there is
kings of creep.
There is a little bit of an edge to it, but it's hard to
tell.
There's
a tinge.
What are the other songs that stick out to you?
Okay, so I had a boyfriend during this time. Well, like later. So like I had already but I'm trying to shut up. I think it was like I was single before and I listened to this album and I would like save songs and I'm like one day like I'm gonna send to a guy because like they're just like so emotional. Like I really liked I Wanna Be Yours at the time and now I'm just like it kind of sounds like it's underwater, but at the time I was like I really do. And I think that one is because it has a more like traditionally feminine perspective of having a crush. Like Do I Want to Know is very masculine in that it's like I'm pretty sure that we're gonna kiss. Like is that what's going on? And then I Want to Be Yours is very like we don't need to do anything. All I want to do is be needed by you. And that's a really like societally feminine way of having a crush on someone. So I think that's how they kind of get you. If you lip sync these songs into a mirror, you're gonna like feel cool.
Interesting.
I just think that you're gonna feel cool.
I might try it afterwards to see.
I think you should.
See if I feel cool. Oh, how I'd love to feel cool. I do like Arabella. I think that's pretty. I like. Why'd you only
call me when you're high?
When you're high, which is an okay song, but that title really.
It's hard to say.
Well, it's not that it's just hard to say. It's that it switches tense halfway through of so wide, that takes place in the past, but then your is you are. So why do you only call me when you are high?
It doesn't make sense in the title, and then in the song, you're like, who's saying what part?
Maybe that's
like, whose perspective is from.
That's because they are a British band.
Yeah, he said like get that feeling like summit's in your teeth instead of something.
Yeah,
that's like a very like British way of shortening something in a way that drastically shortens it.
There's another song that I just noticed on this last time listening to it that sticks out to me, but for a weird reason. Knee Socks. I don't know if you'll.
Okay, what's the reason?
I don't know if you'll understand what I'm saying here, but this is like it sounds so similar to Tom's Diner. You know Tom's Diner? It was like originally a Susan Vega song, and then there was a Marauder Britney Spears cover of it that goes da 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 da.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I'm sitting in the morning at the diner on the corner. I am waiting at the counter for the man to pour the coffee.
Maybe it was a reference, or maybe they were like, I have this thing stuck in my head and I think it's a new song, and they just didn't realize.
If I were to say like why I never quite connected with it or never really pulled me in, it's that it's so in the middle of the road in terms of, you know, a lot of indie rock they started in the 2000s, and then this is, you know, the early 2010s was very defined by the lo-fi sort of, you know, a little bit dirty. Like it's not as, the production
Yeah, a little rough.
It's a little rough. Whereas this is fairly clean, like in terms of the sound. And then, but it's not clean enough to be like a maximalism. Everything's in between. So it kind of just goes in one ear, out the next. Like, you're like, oh, this is really like competent, you know, proficient guitar playing, but it just doesn't stick with, like, these riffs are theoretically good, but they're not.
Yeah, it's like they recorded it in like a well soundproofed warehouse. You're like, this isn't like the building that it should be recorded in, but like you made it into something, I guess, but it still feels that like emptiness.
This is such a specific reference, but you might remember this. On the Jersey Boys soundtrack, there's the audio, the original cast recording. There's the bit that's just a bit of dialogue where they're talking about can't take my eyes off of you, and they're like, this isn't gonna get any radio play, Frankie. It's too soft to be pop. It's too hard to be rock, you know, or it's too soft to be rock. It's too hard to be pop. And it's like, that's exact. This is, I mean, that's it. And they say there's a hip hop influence. I mean, I don't know.
I don't know.
I can't detect it.
That to be true at all. I think that's why it fell into that like alt rock kind of graveyard.
Crazy. Yeah, that's
exactly. But do you know what I mean? Like the alt girls of Tumblr are. They're gone. I mean, some of them remain.
Where have all the alt girls gone? Long time passing. It's I wouldn't say graveyard so much as like a wake, or like the open casket sort of funeral of like, oh, they're not quite in the ground yet, but they're
like, we can all say our goodbyes, but like it's clear that this time of our lives is never coming back.
Would you say that you still have a positive impression of this album?
Today when I listened to it, it kind of like, it was that perspective for the first time of like seeing it from now and being like, this kind of built a weird image in my brain of what I wanted, because it's so like aggressive. The album thinks that it's like the ideal man, I think, is what it is. And as a teen girl, you're like, yes, sure, absolutely. Like, you sound confident. You sound like you're telling me what love is. I'm gonna listen because I don't know yet. And then you get to be 22 and you're like, I actually would hate that. It's not fully developed. It's not fully matured. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what it is.
I think you've hit the nail right on the head. So, you know, Hannah, do you have anything coming up? Anything you want to plug? You want to get out there?
Coming up?
Anything out there that the people got to know about?
I sometimes post on Twitter. I can't guarantee that it'll be anything of substance.
What's the Twitter handle?
Oh, at Cairo Hannah. It's my name, but backwards.
Thank you.
Thank you.
On the greatest program that's ever existed. Really the touchstone time capsule of our
Absolutely.
So such a pleasure to have you.
It was a pleasure to be here.